بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Continuing in our reading of حلية طالب العلم, the etiquette of the seeker of knowledge, we're going to focus on the passage where the Shaykh is speaking about the etiquette between the student and the teacher, between the student and his Shaykh. And we mentioned last week some of the etiquette, and to which then he continues saying, Rahimahullah, if however you decide to to change to another Shaykh, then seek the permission of the first Shaykh, for it's more likely to preserve the love and compassion in his heart for you, and so on, there through the list of the etiquette that is known by heart. Means if a Shaykh has a student, and the student wishes to get another Shaykh, it's recommended that he seeks his permission, so that he knows that he's seeking knowledge with someone else, because the Shaykh has status over the student, in that the Shaykh says he has religious fatherhood, or what can be referred to as religious fatherhood over him. Means, for example, if the student is attending one lesson, and then he chooses to go to another lesson, maybe the same time or another time, it's important that the Shaykh knows that his student is studying with someone else, and that maybe he's missing because of that. But just to disappear and to seek knowledge with someone else, and then come back to the lesson, and this is not from the etiquette or respect for the Shaykh, in that the Shaykh is investing in the student, so he must give him his respect. And some of the ulama, they mentioned, again we mentioned the week before, in relation to religious fatherhood, is that the teacher is like the parent to the student. As the Prophet ﷺ said in Hadith Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, إِنَّمَا أَنَا لَكُمْ مِثْلِ الْوَالِدِ لِوَالِدِهِ أُعَلِّمُكُمْ. That my example to you is like the father to the parent, I teach you. So this is what they mean by religious fatherhood. He's like a father to you. So just like you seek permission with your father, it's good to seek permission with him, so he doesn't have any ill feelings toward you. Then the Shaykh says, know that your success is dependent upon how much you take this status into consideration, and barely considering it a sign of your failure. Caution, he says, I ask Allah to grant you refuge from doing the things that the foreigners do, or the followers of the Sufi orders and the present day innovators, from total submission to the mashayikh that exceeds the boundaries of the sharia, from licking the hands and kissing the shoulders and grabbing the right hand with both right and left hands when giving salam, behaving that resembles adults when they show affection to children, and bowing at the time of greeting, and using phrases such as Sayyidi and Mawla, which means master, and other such statements used by servants and slaves. So here the Shaykh is talking about the etiquette between the teacher and student has to have boundaries. The hudud is the kitab and the sunnah. So for example, when you meet the Shaykh, yes, giving salam is there, and then the other etiquettes. And some of this has been innovated by the people of Tasawwuf, the Sufiya, who have come with extreme etiquette. For example, he mentions licking the hands. And we don't have any authentic report about licking the hands of the Shaykh or anyone. And then kissing the shoulders. But what about kissing the hand or kissing the head? And the ulama say this is from the sunnah. It's permissible to kiss the hand of a Shaykh or alim sometimes. And this is again if the Shaykh permits you. For some Shaykh they won't let you. And so here we benefit from this, that it's permissible. There is a hadith that some of the Prophet's companions radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, they met him, they gave bay'ah to him, and later on some of the students, the tabi'een, they kissed their hands of the Sahaba out of honor and respect for the hands they gave bay'ah to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or other hadith showing that the Sahaba wished to kiss the head of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam or his hand. So here the scholars say this is permitted, there's proof for it, but it should be done not as a aada. Means every time the Shaykh comes, he raises his hand. And we find this aada from some of the groups, it's not from the sunnah. For we know when we meet another Muslim, we have to give his hand to shake it, not to kiss it. So it's important, it should not be taken as an etiquette that is continuous, for we don't have proof for that. And then the Shaykh mentions, for example, grabbing the right hand with both hands, both the right and left, when giving salam. Means using two hands to shake. Now this obviously can be debated if this is actually from the Sufis or not, because it's a difference of opinion amongst the ulama. Is it from the sunnah when you're doing musafaha, when you're shaking someone's hand, you shake it with one or two? So some of the ulama argue that you can do two hands. Because they say that there are some evidences that show the Prophet ﷺ holding the hands of the Sahaba twice, or with two hands. So, for example, they use as evidence the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, hadith Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that he said, علمني رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم تشهد وكفي بين كفيه. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught me that tashahhud, and my hand was between his two hands. And so some say this is proof you can hold someone's hand with two hands. And then they may add on top of that, Safah Hamad bin Zaid, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, biyadayn. That Ibn Hamad bin Zaid shook the hand of Ibn Mubarak with two hands. But in reality, these are not clear evidences, because it shows that you can hold the hand of someone with two hands. As Ibn Hajar explains, Fath al-Bari, this is permissible. But the Rasul ﷺ, when he taught us to give salam, this is not how he would encourage us to do it. And so the correct opinion is that it should be done with one hand, because the hadith that praise shaking the hand say it should be done with one hand. For example, a hadith, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن المؤمن إذا لقي المؤمن. If a believer meets another believer, and then he says فسلم عليه, and he gives him the salam, and what does he do then? أخذ بيده, he takes him by his one hand. أخذ بيده, he takes his one hand with his hand, and they both make musafaha. فصافحهما, then they make musafaha with one hand. So here Shaykh Al-Albani, he uses evidence amongst others that one hand is mentioned in the text, which is the preferred sunnah. And if someone does this, the hadith continues, تناثرت خطاياهما كما يتناثر ورق الشجرة. That the sins of the two people will fall the same way that the leaves fall off the tree during the winter seasons or the fall season. And so this is the more correct opinion. So we're not going to ascribe this to the Sufiya necessarily, but what Shaykh Bakr might intend by it is that this is not the most correct way, or maybe something that is common with those people more than the people of Sunnah. And then he continues by saying that if someone wants more, there are resources that he refers to. So the Shaykh and the student have interactions according to the Sunnah. They shouldn't do things which are not according to the Deen, because in Islam it's prohibited to bow to someone and referring to him as Sayyidi and Mawla. These are not the etiquette or the titles that we know. Our Mashaykh, we have certain titles we give them. For example, we mentioned calling them Shaykh or Ustad. As for the other titles, then that which has not been affirmed from the earlier scholars, it's better to avoid it. He says, your capital, O seeker, is from your Shaykh. Follow his pious manners and noble character. As for acquisition and dictation of knowledge, then that is extra profit. However, you do not be taken by exuberant love for your Shaykh, lest you fall into abomination without realizing it, and all those around you realize. Means the student and the teacher, there should be obviously a relationship based on love, but it shouldn't be extreme. Because if the Shaykh makes a mistake, because of your love for him, you follow him in the mistake, and you defend that which is batil. And sometimes you find that if someone forgets this point, he might fall into extremism without knowing it. So it's important we have hub shar'iyyan, love that's legislated. And he continues by showing that these are not the etiquettes that someone should have. For example, so do not imitate him in his voice, his tone, his walk, his movements or appearance. For he did not become a great Shaykh just by this. So do not fail or fall by doing this. Means that to become a student of the Shaykh doesn't mean imitating his physical appearance and his manners. Even though the ulama also mention imitating his voice is not an etiquette either, whether that done in praiseworthy or non-praiseworthy manner, or the way he walks, despite the natural inclination for a student to copy his teacher. As we mentioned before, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he mentions that when he used to study with Alamat Sa'di rahimahullah, his teacher, he said, when we were young, we used to imitate him everything he used to do, the way he used to wear his mashlah or bisht, or how he used to have a book with him or pen. We would love him, so we followed him, because he's an imam. But obviously the Shaykh's meaning that become a student of a Shaykh doesn't mean this. It means if you want to be a student of someone, doesn't mean you copy their personality, the way that they are. You take from the knowledge that they have. And so this is an important benefit. Imitating someone's voice or walks, or this is not how knowledge is obtained. But on top of this, he says, the Shaykh should have enthusiasm in his lessons. And this is dependent upon the seeker's capacity to listen, his frame of mind, and how much he becomes emotionally involved with the Shaykh in his lessons. For this reason, beware of becoming a tool for cutting off his knowledge by being lazy, slouching, or allowing your mind to wander during the lessons. Hafid al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah said, the right of benefit should go to its zealous wanter, not presented except to the person interested in it. So if the muhaddith sees slackness from the listeners, then let him become silent, for some of the people of culture have said, the enthusiasm of a speaker depends on the capacity of the listener. Means that even the Shaykh chooses the correct time to teach. and he finds his students becoming bored or overwhelmed, he stops the lesson or the discussion in order to give them ability to relax or to have some type of break. And this is important because sometimes someone may come to a lesson and they're not paying attention. The Shaykh is sharing fawaid and benefits and it's not falling on the attentive ears. So the listener should come with the correct attitude as well as the Shaykh. So the listener should be listening carefully. This is the etiquette. When you listen to a speech or lectures or lessons, you try to take the fawaid. الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ. Allah describes the believers as those who listen to the speech and follow the best of it. So when you listen, your goal is to obtain fawaid, the benefit. And the teacher, he tries to make sure he picks an appropriate time to teach, because sometimes it might be overcoming them and it's burdensome for them. And so for that reason, Shaykh Uthaymeen does mention the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتخولنا بالموعدة في الأيام مخافة السامة علينا. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pick an appropriate time to teach us out of fear of us becoming bored with the lesson. So sometimes you pick a time in the week to teach them. And so it's important for the listener to be listening, but also the teacher to be teaching when time he sees the enthusiasm. Ibn Mas'ud used to also advise that to milun nas, don't bore the people. Because he said, في كل قول نشاط وإقبالا. Every statement or speech has a time of enthusiasm and acceptance, وَلَهَا سَامَّةً وَإِدْبَارًا. And it also has a time of boredom and laziness. And this narration is authentic for Ibn Mas'ud, as found in Al-Shu'ab al-Imam Bayhaqi. So here we take a benefit that we should also be careful with the listeners, not to overburden them. And of course, narrating and teaching that which benefits them. For some things are not befitting to taught to everybody, and some things also might be too much for them and it can become fitna. So the listeners try their best to be listening. It's not just about attending mindlessly. Because some hadith criticize the person who listens like a funnel. What does it mean? It means that it comes in the ears, doesn't fall into the heart. This hadith is a hadith Rasulullah said, be wary of listening like a funnel. Like you have the funnel where you pour water in it, goes in one end, it comes out the other. Means the speech hits the ears but it doesn't go to the heart. Means you're not really benefiting from the knowledge. You're just listening, you're attending, but you go and you as if you were not attending. So our benefit should always be to take something from the lesson and not to be lazy. Sometimes the ulama, to awaken the students, they give them energetic benefits. Benefit here and there, just to energize them. So it has little to do with the lesson, just to get their attention, because sometimes they're not being attentive. The Shaykh says then, writing what the Shaykh says during the lesson or revision. So the student knowledge should understand that this differs from one Shaykh to another. It means that sometimes you sit with the Shaykh, the etiquette, you might write something, other times you just sit, and you benefit from the sitting there. But of course, the best thing is to try your best to write down some notes. Bring a paper and pen is always the best way, for you don't know when the benefit will come. And from that angle, Shaykh Uthaymeen, he mentions the benefit from Imam al-Sa'di, that he used to often carry with him in his pocket a small notebook, because he would use it to write down benefits he heard while he's outside, and someone said something beneficial, he would write it down so not to lose it. So some recommend that they have a notebook in the pocket and a pen, or you never know. So if you come to a lesson, you can write, or someone said something of wisdom, or an experience, or a poetry, you write it down. You're always ready to learn. And so the benefit is that you should come to lesson with a notebook and pen, قَيِّدُ الْعِلْمِ بِالْكِتَابِ الْحَدِيثِ, that you should record knowledge and secure it by writing it down. You don't know, maybe the fact that you got, it could change your life, you could help someone solve a problem in their life, you could help your family. And even as for us now, with the benefits that are shared electronically on our phone, on internet, we save them too, for they can come handy later on. We shouldn't just, it's forwarding and passing, but you save it, because you never know when this benefit will come. The Shaykh then turns his attention to seeking knowledge from the innovator, the mubtadi'. And this is very, very important topic, because this is the way of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that there's knowledge should be taken from the people who are most appropriate. He says, beware of the mubtadi', Abu Jahl, the one who has been touched by deviance in his creed, engulfed by the clouds of fiction. He who allows himself to be ruled by his vain desires and calls to logic and diverts from texts, means the Quran and Sunnah. After all, where is logic except in the text, means the Quran and Sunnah. And who also holds fast to weak hadith, distance himself from the authentic narrations. So these are referred to as Ahlul Shubuhat, Ahlul Ahwa, the people of doubts, the people of desires. And for this reason, Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah used to call them al-asaghir, the small ones or the insignificant ones. So here the Shaykh is teaching us that knowledge should be taught or sought from the people who are upon the Sunnah. If someone who has something wrong with his belief system, his aqidah, or he has opinions which are not in accordance to the teachings of the ulama or according to the Quran and Sunnah, means a lot of mistakes, a lot of khurafat, fables and folklore, we should not be learning from them. And this is important because sometimes people learn and they sit with anyone and everyone. But the manhaj, the methodology of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is to first check who are you taking knowledge from. What's this person's aqidah? What's their background? What are they teaching? What books? And you are certain if this person is qualified to be taken from, or that you trust their reliability. And for those reasons we hear the narration and we should memorize. Ibn Masireen rahimahullah said, إِنَّ هَذَا عِلْمُ الدِّينِ فَانْظُرُوا عَمَّنْ تَأْخُذُونَ دِينَكُمْ. That this knowledge is religion, be wary of who you take your religion from. And so with technology now there are a lot of speakers, but it doesn't mean that everyone you take from, especially if someone has been declared an innovator by the ulama. It's important, different between someone who you don't know who they are versus someone who the ulama said this person is an innovator. Because the declaration of innovation upon someone means to make tabdi' mu'ayyan, it has to come from scholars. If they say so-and-so is an innovator, he's upon the misguided path, we have to stay away from them. The Salaf al-Salih, they will not take knowledge from people like this. Because number one, they're not trustworthy. And number two, they come with things that are going to corrupt you. The Shaykh mentions some examples. They follow desires and doubts. They rely upon weak narrations instead of authentic. They might put their logic over the text. So these are the reasons why we don't take from them. Now somebody may say that I can take the good and leave the bad. And you hear this a lot. Sometimes they say this. It's because it's convenient. I will listen to everybody, take the good and leave the bad. The problem is, how would you know what is good and what is bad if you don't have knowledge to begin with? And sometimes you wouldn't be able to tell which part of it is good or bad if someone is much more knowledgeable than you are. So you might say all of it is the good, all of it is the bad. And where is the problem here? If you're not sure, you stay on safety. And the Shaykh will get to that later on, how the Salaf were very severe in this. But we have to remember, the hearts are not in our hands. How many people that listen to someone, they didn't know their hal, something fell into their heart, they become misguided. The qulub are not in our hands, they're in the hands of Allah. So if you tell yourself, I will listen to somebody, I will just take the good things and stay from the bad things. In the qulub bayna usba'in asabi' ar-Rahman. That the hearts are between the two fingers of Ar-Rahman, yuqadibuha kayfa yasha. Allah, He turns it however He wills. How do you know? Somebody may say something due to his beautiful speech. وَإِنَّ مِنَ بَيَانِ السِّحْرَةِ. Some speech and some eloquence is like magic. He will overcome you, the speaker, and then you'll become now realizing you've deviated until it's too late. It means your heart, it's stuck. And so the Shaykh then he goes into mentioning how the Salaf al-Salih would deal with them. And we'll mention some of those examples before we end. He says, Imam al-Zahabi rahimahullah, he says, if you see the innovative mutakallim, means the person busied in philosophical rhetoric, philosophy and the likes, saying, leave out the Quran and Sunnah and bring forth logic, then know that he's Abu Jahl. And if you see one in the spiritual path who claims to be practicing a set of prescribed forms of innovative worship, such as the Sufi, saying, leave us from the knowledge that is transmitted and bring forth the taste and ecstasy of passion, then know that he is Iblis, become manifest in human form, or has become incarnate with him. So if you become cowardly, then run away from him. Otherwise, wrestle him down, sit on his chest with your knee, and read Ayatul Kursi and strangle him. It means you do ruqya on him. And this doesn't mean that the person should kill him. Shaykh Uthaymeen says if someone listens to this kalam, he may think that the Shaykh is telling him to kill the person. A'udhu billah. He means to do ruqya. Because from ruqya you're allowed to use force. So it's important we put that point there, that it's in terms of ruqya. Or if you just take it unstrictly, it doesn't mean to fight and to kill. But what is intended by this, these are the doors of misguidance. Somebody will come and say, we just follow what we want. That's how Abu Jahl, when the truth came, he rejected it. And the Sufis will come and say, we follow our desires, our feeling. We have taste in this type of innovative worship. So just like Shaitan followed his desire. And the likes of this. And so the speech of Imam Dhahabi, as strict as it is teaching us that some people, they don't mean well. Even they're misguided or they're ignorant. But for us, when we see people like this, we should stay away. Because our aqeedah and our beliefs and our deen are more important. How many people may even argue that their misguidance came to them from people who they trusted, and then later on when they find this person misguided, they lose trust with the mashayikh or the ilm, because now they thought this was a good shaykh, and then they get confused. Shaykh was not good, he's not upon guidance, and he gets doubt now. Who else can I not trust? Or it could be worse. The person is being clarified to him that this person is misguided with proofs and evidences, and then they say, well, it doesn't matter because I learned Islam from him in the beginning. You see the fitna you put yourself in then. Now you have a hard time detaching yourself from him, or because you have put your heart towards this person. So Shaykh is advising us, beware if you take your knowledge from. The best way is to ask and inquire about someone's status, what's their aqeedah, what did they study, what did they rely upon. And if you're not sure, you ask. And this will save you a lot of problems, and at the same time protect your heart. Because the Shaykh mentions later on, Imam Dhahabi himself, he mentioned that the hearts are weak and the doubts are snatching. Somebody, he doesn't know where misguidance can come to him. And this can also apply to reading books or of people of innovation when you are not as someone grounded in knowledge. So just as listening to them is dangerous, reading their works, if you're not well grounded in knowledge, for you also may become overcome. Inshallah, the Shaykh then mentions one more, and we mentioned this before the Salah. He says also, Imam Dhahabi, rahimahullah, that I read in the writing of the Shaykh al-Muwaffaq, I believe Ibn Qudama here, we heard his lesson, Ibn Abi Asrun, with the brother Abi Umar, when we stopped going to his lessons. And I heard my brother say to enter his house after that and asked him, why have you cut off the lessons from me? So I replied, some people say that you are an Ash'ari. So he said, by Allah, I'm not an Ash'ari, and this is the summary of the story. So here the Shaykh is showing that some of the students, they would be so keen to this point that if someone was even casted doubt about the Aqeedah, they would refrain from learning from him. What's an Ash'ari? An Ash'ari is someone who follows the earlier creed of Abu Hassan Ash'ari, one is the one that he repented from when he became upon the Aqeedah of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah. So because of this, they refer to this group as the Asha'ira, the people who follow this creed, mainly falsely interpreting the names of Allah and their attributes, and a number of other issues in Aqeedah. Some of this were covered in the lessons of Aqeedah. So the benefit we take from there, that when the Shaykh missed the student Shaykh asked him, why didn't you come? And they said, I heard this about you, and he clarified that I'm not Ash'ari. And this is important, that somebody may be accused wrongly of their Aqeedah, he has the right to clarify himself. Someone says, you're so-and-so's an extremist, so-and-so's this, then he has the right to say, I'm not that, and here's what I believe. And if somebody hears these accusations, he should also verify, because sometimes the accusations come from the bias. And so here we take a benefit that the student should be keen of who he takes knowledge from. And this is the most important thing, because at the beginning stages, when you're not that knowledgeable, a lot of people look that they have knowledge. It's very important to stick with those who you trust and you know. And there's no harm if you learn from a little bit from someone, or you learn from a few group of people who are knowledgeable in your eyes, and then take it from everybody who you don't know their hal. But some people, they want many teachers, but in the end of the day, you're not sure who you're taking from. It all starts with trusting the person and being keen. Inshallah, I will end with this much for now. If anyone has any question or something, yeah.
In regards to the knowledge that is taught, does that even include how some social media platforms, they have their own groups where they basically they post their own benefits and stuff? So should we also check with their ulama if we can take from those groups? Do they count as people that we should double check?
And when it comes to groups and social WhatsApp groups and social media, this is not what we intend by seeking the knowledge. This is fawaid, benefits. But likewise, you should also be keen not to just join every group, because if someone he joins every group, it also means that he doesn't have criteria. Just joins everyone he takes from them. Maybe this group is sharing something, then he finds later on they're talking bad of the mashayikh or something. So ilm we're talking about is sitting with the student, the shaykhs, or sitting with the teacher and benefiting. This is what's meant by the ilm. But in terms of the groups as well, someone should be careful. Shouldn't join every group, because again, not every group is beneficial, and we should always be keen with our time as well. Should not be in every group and every place. This is not the benefiting way. Naam. Naam, Shaykh. It's true, there's ayah in Surah Muhammad that Allah describes the munafiqeen as some people, they sit with Rasul Sallallahu listen to his speech, and when he leaves they ask, what did he say just now? Means that people who are just attending and really they're not benefiting, yes, they can fall into that category, but they're not listening carefully to the knowledge, they're not people who are trying to acquire it. And of course, attending is not the same as learning. For attending is a means to learn, but if you attend doesn't mean you learned. So the goal is to attend and to learn, not just to be attending and just being there and just leaving as if you didn't benefit anything. Because this is, again, you should be listening attentively and following the best of the speech. So this characteristic is very dangerous to have. Inshallah, we'll end with this much. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.